NRW Virtual Investor Conference. I'm Andrew Gagan. Great to have your company. So today we'll be hearing from ikeGPS, which seeks to be the standard for collecting, analysing and managing pole and overhead asset information for electricity utilities, communication companies and their engineering service providers, primarily in North America. And the company recently signed a material customer contract with a national engineering services business that operates across the US communications and utilities market. In addition, the largest provider of communications infrastructure for cell towers, small cells and fibers in the US, Crown Castle International, has standardized on the IKE platform for pole-related 5G and fiber deployment processes. IKE has deployed its systems across 8 of Crown's regions over the past quarter. Well, we're just about to hear from Glenn Milnes, but before we do that, just a reminder that if you do have any questions for the Q&A session, please type it in to the Q&A panel on your screen. So let me introduce Glenn Milnes, Chief Executive and Managing Director at ikeGPS. Glenn.
Thanks, Andrew, and thank you for everyone for attending this event. I'll step through some slides to introduce our business and then hopefully leave time for Q&A. So as background to the IKE business, we serve 2 really interesting and important markets and market opportunities. We're a North American based business listed on ASX and NZX. The first market is addressing the communications boom across North America. The picture here, that they're 5G antennas attached to a power pole. The US is in the early stages of rolling out 5G and fiber infrastructure across North America. Around 200 communications companies and 4 national mobile network operators in a race to deploy their fiber infrastructure. And IKE dramatically speeds up the pre-construction and post-construction processes. So we let these customers get to market faster with their networks. The second important industry with perhaps even larger macro tailwinds is around the 3,200 electric utilities across the United States who have aging infrastructure and have a lot of other networks attaching to their power poles and their power infrastructure. So the photograph here is an overloaded power pole that's clearly failed. We help electric utilities not just do this work faster and more safely, but we give them a higher quality standard of construction through our software and our workflow. Taking a 10-year view of IKE, we think this is the really big prize as we grow our business across the United States. So again, these 2 very important markets, electric utilities, we assess as a $750 million per annum market opportunity for the work that IKE supports. The communications market we assess around a $250 million market opportunity, just looking at the top 15 communications companies over the next 3 to 5 years in terms of the work and contracts that we support. And underpinning both of these 2 infrastructure owner segments are about 1,000 engineering companies that perform engineering and construction work on behalf of the asset owners themselves. In terms of what we do, so IKE's building an end-to-end platform and an end-to-end revenue model to support these 2 customer segments. I'll go through it quickly. We have an annual subscription for access to our platform that customers pay us typically in advance for 1 year, and they renew every year on a recurring basis. We then have additive revenue from transactions that occur across our platform. So the more assets and power pole projects that get processed across our platform, we take a fee for use of the platform. And I'll go into a bit more detail around the types of reports and deliverables that we provide to our customers that let them go faster in terms of their network projects. In terms of why do customers buy IKE? If we're talking about communications providers, fiber and 5G infrastructure owners, it's the box up on the top left. We speed up this process by more than 2 times. Sorry, that's the box down in the bottom middle. If we're talking about the electric utilities, there's some other factors at play. So we reduce personnel costs. We dramatically increase safety, and we also reduce error rates and revisits to the pole by around 8 times. So some quite compelling metrics, but we focus on different things depending on the customer type that we're engaging with. And we are starting to win now just some of the very biggest names in the business. Just this last week, we announced Crown Castle as a group that's standardized on Ike nationally for their 5G and their fiber construction processes. The very big revenue opportunity, we believe, through Crown Castle is through their engineering service providers, who they lean on, more than 200 engineering companies that do work across the country on behalf of Crown Castle. But we are now working with some of the very biggest utilities, all of the investor-owned utilities on the west coast of the United States, and starting to focus more on the tier 1 investor-owned utilities across the US. We've got good, solid momentum in the business. I think the most important chart for an investor audience is the one on the right, where the blue bar represents transaction and subscription revenue in terms of the quality of our revenue stack, and where we see that proportion growing over time. And despite having a tricky year with COVID, we're classified as essential business, supporting critical infrastructure, but activity in our markets were impacted through Q1 and our Q3. We're a March year end. We saw a drop off of activity with the very severe waves of COVID, but we're seeing activity now coming back extremely strongly. We're booking a lot of business in terms of this sales quarter will be our best by quite a significant margin. And we're seeing activity now to really roaring back in terms of network construction, which is positive. Just a little around our team. We have 3 of our directors based in North America, 3 in Australia or New Zealand, or Bill Morris now moved permanently out to San Francisco. But we focus on, a real depth of expertise around our industry. We're wholly focused on distribution asset projects. So we believe we can, by being more focused on this industry, we've got an opportunity to become the standard for how distribution projects are managed and delivered. Just to highlight, the most recent director appointment for Ike was Mark Ratcliffe. Mark was formerly CEO of Chorus, where he led the deployment of New Zealand's national fibre network, and prior to that was a senior executive of Spark and formerly Telecom New Zealand. So really understands voice of the customer, the decision criteria for some of these big infrastructure owners, and how we deliver our value proposition and message. And as an operation, the center of gravity for us is in Colorado, United States. We employ pole people, engineers, and pole experts on the technology side and also on the delivery side. So we go to market directly. We sell delivery. We sell directly. We see a very big opportunity to build the best customer experience in our industry, and create a lot of brand value and brand equity via our CX. And we have a finance team and a software engineering team based in Wellington, New Zealand. So just to give a little more color as to what our products actually do, and I think a picture paints 1,000 words. We're very niche specific, but this is a view into our cloud software platform. You can see a power pole there that has had its photograph taken using one of our proprietary field tools. That raw information comes back into the cloud, and an engineer is able to dimension and annotate everything that's attached to that asset using our software to understand where they might be able to, for example, attach a fiber line or a 5G antenna. And for a lot of our customers, having this type of insight and visibility into assets is unique, and they've typically worked with very manual field practices. Another one of our products is called Forman. So if we go back to this photograph here of a fully dimensioned power pole, it's then automatically transformed into a digital model of that asset to understand that it's being built to standards and built to code and built to the engineering criteria of a particular electric utility. And our Forman pole loading analysis software is used by more than 100 electric utilities and a lot of engineering service providers, but we have an installed base at some of the very biggest electric utilities, so all of Southern Company, all of the Exelon Group, Duke Energy, Florida Power and Light, and a host of others. We help these really big infrastructure owners, often national communications companies, manage projects at a micro level, also looking at their entire footprint to get state of play across how multiple projects across multiple regions or multiple states are progressing, right down to showing the productivity of a single engineer in the field on any given day. So some interesting data insights for our customers. We help them manage their workflow from start to finish, from the beginning of planning a project through to the delivery of the construction phase. And we automate some processes that are typically very manual and very time consuming. So I know it's very hard to see on these slides, but before a fiber company can attach their fiber infrastructure, they need to support what's called a permit request to the person that owns the power pole. It's normally the power company. We automate that process and use technology and digital records, which creates a lot less risk for the approver of a permit request, and this removes a big bottleneck in terms of speed. So going into a lot of detail here, but this is the kind of specificity that our software and our platform delivers to our customers. As mentioned, we're building a platform to drive the entire industry is our goal, and to become the standard. We have 3 swim lanes. We're typically planning through 12-quarter horizons, and every quarter we're focusing on 3 key strategic initiatives that we believe put together can give us differentiated advantage over the long term, relating to technologies for collecting pole information. Transactions is what brings the cash register for us, so it's the maximum amount of data coming into our platform. Our analysis capability, so delivering all the value back to the customer so they can do their projects faster and better, and then certainly a customer experience and branding opportunity in our particular industry, we believe. So just in terms of some more recent updates from the past 90 days, in Q3 we announced a major utility group where we're delivering a $250,000 pole project into a portfolio business of a Fortune 100 electric utility company. We expect that contract to grow very materially over time, but an interesting first evidence point of cross-selling some of our higher value products and services into a pole foreman customer. We acquired an artificial intelligence software company in January of this year. Some more on that to follow, but we think that's very important for our customers, but also for investors. We've had a very strong Q4 that's continued the first 5 weeks of the year. We closed about $3 million in new contracts, and we've continued that momentum. And we named Crown Castle last week as a new party that's standardizing on ike. AT&T have also standardized on ike for parts of their processes. And tied to that has been this very large engineering group that are using ike across multiple customers, Crown Castle, AT&T, Verizon, that will deliver around $0.7 million per annum of subscription and transaction fees. And more generally, we've, as I mentioned, have just seen the market really bounce forward, coming out of some severe COVID impacts. So clearly some, I think, light at the end of the tunnel with the vaccine and with summer, etc., now coming back to us in the US. Just a little more color around the artificial intelligence software business that we acquired and why we think it matters to our customers and for investors. And it's a bit of a messy couple of slides here, and I'll do my best to explain it. But our current platform requires our customers to collect information over on the left-hand side using Ike's proprietary tools to go and capture polls, and poll information comes into our cloud. We process deliverables and we send them back to our customers. And we mostly on the right-hand side support what are called structural analysis projects. With the acquisition we've made, we've now got the ability to ingest multiple other data sources coming into our platform. So again, looking at the left-hand side, we've got poll-specific capability to ingest data coming from drones, from smartphones, from LiDAR and thermal imagery and other sources. Really, really large data sets that we apply software and machine learning to do automated analysis, and it lets us process these very large data sets and extract very poll-specific information. And why that's interesting, I think, ultimately from a revenue perspective, is it gives us, we think a very strong set of competitive advantages across some new project types for utilities. So you can see down the bottom, joint use audits and poll inspection. So very high volume, large data set projects. So again, going from proprietary tools to bulk data sets being able to come into the Ike platform under the same revenue model that we explained, and opening up some new market segments that are very meaningful from a revenue perspective. So thank you. I'll pause there and hope we have some time for some questions.
Glenn, thanks very much for that presentation. All right, straight to the questions. Could you talk about the engineering service company win last week? How does the size of that company, the contract there, compare with other ESPs out there?
There are a lot of national ESPs operating across the US. This is a medium large group, but they're very active across fiber rollouts for the companies I mentioned. So not just Crown Castle, but also AT&T and Verizon. So yeah, we're delighted to have contracted with them. They've really bought into some of the new features and reporting capability that we've developed over the past 2 quarters. So yeah, there's many other customers like them operating in the market.
And further to that, how do you think about the ramp up in terms of onboarding these ESPs?
Interestingly, COVID, which hit about a year ago today, so our team have been 100% remote for 13 months now, but it really accelerated our efforts to stand up. We call it Ike University, but we have a completely web-based and digital training platform, which means that scaling up these customers now has become a lot easier and a lot faster, and we can do it remotely. We provide qualification certificates for people training in Ike, and that gives us the ability to do a lot of things on a touchless basis in terms of deployment. We typically always need to put people with our customers at certain stages, and we need to keep them successful, because the faster they go with their work, the more revenue we're generating from a transaction fee perspective. But yeah, we're comfortable around the scalability of going out to a lot of these customers all at once.
And Glenn, can you give us detail on pricing, platform, transactions?
Yes, in terms of the platform as a service fee, we're either putting in place an enterprise license agreement that renews on an annual basis, and that pricing is very customer specific. For smaller customers, we put that platform fee as charged at between US to $2,000 to $3,000 per system per annum. So an average customer, or the customer we're talking about at the moment, will have around 60 systems deployed. That's the platform as a service fee. The transaction fee varies depending on the complexity of the work they're doing. And that can be anything from US $3 to US $30, depending on the complexity of the poll project. So it varies a little. I guess an ASP of 15 is a good way to think about
All right, and how important is standardising on the Ike platform by Crown Castle and AT&T?
It's important because they're the biggest investors into fibre alongside Verizon. There's 15 tier one groups that are doing the bulk of the investment into fibre, and a lot of regional operators. So they also instruct a lot of engineering companies to work in a particular kind of way. So it opens the door for us, not just to serve that particular communications group, but also to access their engineering companies. And a trend in the US is for more and more and more of this construction work to be outsourced to engineering companies. So they're a very important piece of the market for us.
And Glenn, what's the advantage of the current environment, given the Biden administration has prioritised infrastructure spending and obviously rolling out those infrastructure projects across the United States? How do you think you stand to benefit from that?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a continued push towards rural broadband initiatives, so similar to an NBN type initiative. So the US are now promoting another $95 billion of investment towards providing broadband across rural communities. And we're already seeing that that's driving activity, and we're winning some initial customers, I think, directly tied to that stimulus.
Glenn, terrific. Thanks very much for your presentation. Thanks for joining us from ikeGPS.
Thanks, everyone.